Thanks, Chris. Next, we're going to have Aidan come back and talk to you a little bit about some tips to consider when designing a network using Dante.
When designing an AV system that uses Dante, you basically start in the usual place, and that's with a system diagram. And this is no different from any other kind of AV system that you would design. The system diagram shows what the pieces of equipment are in the system and what audio signals need to pass between them. So once we have a system diagram, next we need to work out what we need in terms of network equipment. The key requirement being to ensure that we have large enough network pipes between the equipment to carry the audio channels that are needed for the system. In the table in the bottom right-hand side of the slide, you can see some conservative design numbers for the channel capacity of one single 100 megabit per second or gigabit link. Although Dante can support up to 64 by 64 channels on a 100 megabit per second link, we have conservatively reserved 30% of the link bandwidth for control and monitoring traffic, like metering, and for headroom. And that gives us a comfortable 48 by 48 channels on the link. Notice that as the sample rate doubles, so from 48 kHz to 96 kHz, the number of channels supported on a single link halves. In a switched network, the design of Dante means that the total channel capacity of the system considerably exceeds the channel capacity of a single link, particularly if the Unicast transport is used, and we'll talk more about Unicast in a couple of slides. The channel capacity of a single link does not limit the total capacity of the system, and you can mix and match 100 megabit per second links and gigabit links in a network. Some devices in the network may transmit the same channels to more than one device. So for example, in the diagram, there's a 32 by 32 DSP box which is transmitting 32 channels to the console, 32 channels to the other DSP box in the diagram, and 16 channels to an I/O box, giving a total of 80 channels being transmitted from this one box. This means that a gigabit connection to that box is needed. When designing your system, use gigabit links between switches to create a high-capacity core for the network. This is cost-effective, it reduces end-to-end latency through the system, and it allows the system to scale to large channel counts. Also, if you're going to use daisy chains of switches, definitely use gigabit between the switches. So having worked out how large the pipes between the boxes need to be, we can start to think about selecting switches. When looking at switches, consider the distances that you need to support between the switches. So Cat5 cables can only go 100 metres, however a fibre link can go for kilometres. Many switches support what are called small form factor pluggable slots or SFP slots, and these are a great way of supporting fibre connections via plug-in modules, and you can see an SFP slot in the diagram there on the slide. In general, it's a good idea to choose a switch with some management functions, particularly for installed scenarios. Managed switches usually support various statistics and error counters, which can be very helpful in managing networks. Additionally, they support features like VLANs and packet filtering, which are quite helpful in the style of scenario that Greg described earlier, where there were multiple different types of network technologies all sharing the one network. Dante leverages voice over IP style quality of service to provide guarantees for audio and clock synchronization traffic on the network. DiffServ, or DSCP QoS, quality of service, prioritizes audio and clock synchronization traffic over control or other traffic on the network. So we would recommend that you use a switch supporting DiffServ with 4 priority queues and using strict priority. In terms of brands, obviously switches at the higher end of the market from companies like Cisco or HP are usually fine, but there are also examples of more cost-effective choices. So you can see there that I've given you a short list of Linksys SRW series of switches, and we've had quite good experience with those. In order to maximize network efficiency, Dante supports 2 modes of transmitting data, Unicast and Multicast. Unicast provides efficient point-to-point transmission between 2 devices, So the classic example here is a digital snake. Using Unicast, audio channels are transmitted once for each receiver, and the packets stay confined to a narrow path through the network between the sender and the receiver. So for example, packets being transmitted unicast do not travel down through the switch to the bottom right-hand receiver in the diagram that you can see on the bottom left of the slide. Lots of AV signals in systems are point-to-point, or they have only a few receivers, and that makes them very well suited to unicast transport. Multicast, on the other hand, provides efficient one-to-many transmission to lots of receivers in a network. For example, front of house in a stadium where there may be hundreds and hundreds of loudspeakers or amps throughout the venue. Using multicast, channels are transmitted once, and the network switches actually duplicate the packets as they pass through the network to the receivers. When you're using unicast, you should expect that packets are flooded throughout the network, and each transmitted channel uses up bandwidth on all links in the network. Regardless of whether unicast or multicast transport is being used, audio signals are still routed using textual labels, and Dante handles the appropriate setup of network flows automatically. Multicast transmission can be easily configured in the Dante controller by choosing a collection of channels to be transmitted as a multicast group. In addition to unicast and multicast transport, Dante also supports redundant network transport. Dante Redundancy uses dual interfaces, however it differs from many other redundancy schemes because both interfaces are active at the same time. When a user sets up a route using a textual label, the Zen system creates two audio flows containing the same channels automatically, one carried by the primary interface and the other carried by the secondary interface. The key point to notice here is that we're not relying on some kind of fast failover to achieve redundancy. There is no failover, and this provides glitch-free redundancy, providing that one path is still active. So the Lab Group and PLM series of amplifiers support Dante redundancy, and the diagram below shows a network design which will support glitch-free operation if any link or switch goes down in the system. Equipment designed for IT networking usually offers quite a large set of networking features, and these can also be used with Dante. So Dante works well with features like the spanning tree protocol, either the classic spanning tree protocol or the rapid spanning tree protocol variant. And the purpose of this protocol is to break loops in Ethernet networks. And the spanning tree protocol can provide some sort of failover in networks, but this will not be glitch-free. You can also use link aggregation with Dante or IGMP snooping, which is helpful for limiting the distribution of multicast traffic throughout a network. Dante also will run happily over the top of VLANs. So Greg Lucan's install used VLANs to divide the network up into different pieces. And Dante also plays very nicely with firewalls and filters. And this is a feature of Dante because all of the packets in Dante are IP, so that makes it very easy for someone to set up rules that match these packets, and lots of equipment supports the ability to filter or match IP packets. Dante also plays nicely with managed networks and will pick up IP address information from DHCP if it is available in the network. And this means that if you have an IT guy setting up your network or are deploying Dante into a managed IT environment, the same tools that are used to manage PC equipment and networks can be used to manage Dante devices. So with Dante, you're not restricted to just the features that we provide. All of the tools that are available in IT networking are leverageable in Dante systems, while still achieving unparalleled ease of use and performance.
Thanks, Aidan. In summary, we'd like to wrap up by going to a question and answer period, and we'll allocate as much time as we can, but we have, and I thank you for sending in all the questions, and we'll address as many of these questions as we have as time allots. But we appreciate you joining us today. to understand how Dante can offer a higher performance, flexible, scalable networking solution. Our OEM partners are quickly realizing that Dante provides an exceptional solution, and we continue to add new licensees who will give you a broader solution suite with more equipment options that you would have. So we'd ask you to ask your preferred vendors how you could put Dante into your network. And we hope you consider using our products from our partners, which incorporate Dante to deliver a high-performance, no-hassle, self-configuring, true plug-and-play digital audio networking solution. As we had said, with Dante, digital networking just got easy.